Hello everyone, and welcome to UnJustified, where we always cover the truth, the facts, the good, the bad, the ugly, on an unbiased and sometimes very unpopular opinion. It seems as though our video that I just uploaded on the look into Darlie Routier was very attention-grabbing. There was many interested in this case. Some are like me, and they really haven't looked into it since it happened. Then there was some that didn't even know about the case. Then there was many that knew about the case and, just haven't been looking into it. One of the comments I got was they had heard that Darlie was denied by the Innocence Project to take her case. I too had heard that. So I decided I'm just going to look, because why wouldn't they? Because they are an organization that they will look into it and they will look deep. And if they have any little doubt of the innocence, they won't touch it, because there is a lot that goes into a case when they take it. So I was like, why wouldn't they take it? What did they find as to why they refused her case? Kind of just a jump start to see why they refused it. Anyway, I pulled up several different articles about it. The one I have chosen to share with you guys is the most detailed one. It's not that long, but it is very detailed. And I find out that they absolutely are involved in Darlie's case, the Innocence Project. They did take her case. So that tells me even more, before we've even went any farther, that in order for them to take her case, that's a big deal, because they will not take a case if they have any thought whatsoever that there's guilt. I'm going to share with you guys this article I found. I know this is kind of stepping up into the dissecting of the case, but it is important. This article is from May the 8th of 2019. So yes, it is a year old, but take it for what it is. 2020 has been one thing right after the other, right? Our offices has been closed, our court hearings has been delayed, and the prison Darlie's in is on lockdown. It's not surprising that there isn't a lot already came of this, due to the fact that 2020 has been a flop, right? It really has. We're still under many regulations. Okay, this is the actual article, and it is from the website of Fort Worth Weekly. This old case, new developments. Is freedom in the cards for Darlie Routier? And this was printed on May the 8th of 2019. So it says, the stars may finally be aligning for Darlie Routier, the Rowlett homemaker who was sent to death row 22 years ago, and of course now 23, by a Caryville jury, thanks in part to the sexism and character judgments of male law enforcement officers and Dallas County prosecutors. Routier has always maintained her innocence in deaths of 2 of her 3 young boys at the family's home in the early morning hours of June the 6th, 1996. While her husband Darren Routier and 7-month-old baby Drake slept unharmed upstairs. The New York Innocence Project, now convinced that an innocent woman is languishing on Texas death row, has joined forces with Routier's team Steve Cooper and Richard Smith of Dallas and Richard Burr of Houston. Cooper and Smith met 2 weeks ago with the Dallas County District Attorney Office to discuss Routier now 49, and of course now 50. After that meeting, I received a call from a producer for ABC's 2020, asking to do a fresh interview with me for a hastily assembled 2-hour episode focusing on Routier. TCU Press published my book, Re-Examining the Case, in April of 2015, A Tragedy of Errors. The interview with 2020 was conducted Sunday, and the show will air from 8 to 10 p.m. Friday. A curiously quick turnaround. Okay, now keep in mind this is a 1-year-old article. Now, the episode or the episodes they are referring to, I did try to live stream on my Facebook channel, and Facebook shut it down fast, so I wasn't able to do that. This Patreon thing, if that's something you guys want to do, if this is still available to me, and I'm sure it is, I can definitely live stream this one. Sure, there's many others I can put there that I can't put here on Facebook, so just let me know and make a Patreon and live stream these for you guys there, because I've heard we can do that there. I don't even know, maybe we can't, but I have heard we can, and do watch parties and such as that there. So if you want me to make one, I will. Just let me know. I was told that 2020 will mostly be using footage from last summer's ABC docuseries, The Last Defense, in which Routier's case was spotlighted in 4 one-hour weekly episodes. Vanessa Podkins, the Innocence Project's Director of Post-Conviction Litigation, was involved in that project and is one of 2 Innocence Project lawyers who will now actively work the case. The other lawyer is Bryce Benjett. Podkins' connection to ABC, ABC's connection to 2020, and the recent meeting at the DA's office leave me wondering whether something might be about to break in the case. If so, Cooper isn't saying anything. He explained the confab at the DA's office and a meeting about a number of issues that we've been discussing with the DA's office, some for a long time and some recently, and we're trying to work through, cooperatively, some new scientific testing to be done and some reports to review. Routier has always claimed that she and her children were attacked by an unknown intruder. She herself sustained several injuries, including a slash across her throat that missed her carotid artery by just 2 millimeters. And I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, because for some reason I always pronounce that wrong. I don't know why. Prosecutors who took the case to trial claimed then, and have claimed ever since, that she inflicted the injuries herself. Now, there again, in our comment section on our last video that we made about her, there was some that said they believed that her wounds were self-inflicted. Now, I can say personally, to me, they don't look self-inflicted. That's my opinion. That's just from looking at the pictures. It remains to be seen whether these recent issues and the reports to review referenced by Cooper involve the DNA testing that has been ongoing since 2008. Though Cooper has said there is little chance of a meaningful finding in that regard. Any DNA found from an unknown person must be proven to be connected to the crime. As for the rush re-airing of the Last Defense footage via 2020, Cooper said that ABC may be getting more bang for the big bucks than the network invested in examining Routier's case, something for which he is grateful. Even if there is nothing more going on than routine meetings and a return on a network's investment, there is much for Routier to be excited about. And, according to Cooper, she is. He and Smith recently made a 4-hour round-trip drive to Gatesville to visit her. The signed partnership with the Innocence Project means that Routier's defense efforts have doubled, and there is now financial backing for those efforts. Her team of lawyers, who have worked pro bono on the case for years, have struggled to raise the money needed for all of the DNA testing they won the right to do. The Innocence Project recently was victorious in a situation that parallels State's Evidence 85J. In Routier's case, #RunThePrint, August the 29th, 2018. For 20 years, the organization fought to run through the national database a bloody fingerprint found at the scene of a rape and stabbing that occurred in Baton Rouge, Louisiana in 1982. Archie Williams was convicted of that crime, but, like Routier, always proclaimed his innocence. Years after his conviction, he wrote a letter to Innocence Project co-founder Barry Sheep pleading for help. "We spent 20 years, and it took less than 8 hours to run the print to find a match," Potkin said. Williams, she said, was home within a week. Cooper said that Potkin and Benjett will be particularly valuable in attacking all of the forensic science provided by the state. That battle will soon be underway, he said. The blood spatter testimony of state witnesses Tom Bevel was key in Routier's conviction. His interpretation of bloodstains at the crime scene convinced the jury that there had been no intruder. Routier's lead defense attorney, Doug Mulder, committed a lethal error by not putting on the stand 2 blood spatter experts who had been enlisted by the court-appointed attorneys who had worked the case before he was hired. Terry Labor and Bart Epstein had reached conclusions that were very different from Bevel's. Mulder died in January of last year. Texas has topped the list in exonerations nationwide, and Dallas County, at least at one time, led the nation in DNA exonerations. The brutal error of Dallas County District Attorney Henry Wade spanned from 1951 to 1987, overlapping with James Cron's career at the Dallas County Sheriff's Office. Cron worked there from 1963 to 1993 before becoming a crime scene consultant. He was the expert to whom the Rowlett Police Department turned to for help in the early morning hours of June 6, 1996. Cron said he was determined within 20 to 30 minutes of arriving at the Routier home that there had been no intruder. That's a rush to judgment, in my opinion. Cron died at his home in Sanchez on April the 24th at the age of 79, cheating Cooper of the chance to interrogate him on the witness stand if Routier's conviction is ever overturned and she is tried again by the Dallas County District Attorney's Office. Of course, if 85J is run through the national database and a match pops up, or if DNA tests pass the high bar of proving the presence of a man in the Routier home that night who had no business being there, there may not be another trial at all. There is always the chance that miracles do occur, stars align, and like Archie Williams, Routier might just simply come home. So, I feel like this is probably what Darlie was referring to in the current letter that we saw and read in the prior video. This is probably the miracle that she believes is going to free her, and there may not even be another trial. And that would be amazing. It truly would. Okay, there's also several replies and comments on this article, and I don't know about you guys, but sometimes the comments will have family in them or personal friends, or sometimes there's just information in those comments that you're not getting in the article, right? So I'm going to skim through these really quick, and if the ones I find that I think are interesting, we're going to look at them real quick, because that's part of dissecting, right? This one is from May the 8th, the day of the article, and this is somebody that absolutely thinks she's guilty. And she says, okay, I'll get it out now. As far as Routier coming home, you can wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which gets filled first. You know, my mom used to say that. She truly did. And my mother did not absolutely say bad words. But she did say that, and she said the whole thing. And so that, I don't know. Sorry, just thought that I haven't even heard that saying from anyone in quite a few years, so that kind of got me. Okay, Innocence Project also took Julius Jones and Avery, and you see how far that went. Zero evidence of an intruder at Darlie's home on June the 6th, 1996. The only way those boys got blood on Routier was from cast-off. In the interest of justice, I'm glad Innocence Project is on board. Texas is not going to execute an innocent woman. Darlie Routier murdered Devin and Damon, and no amount of fake media blather is going to change the facts. And the last part is just this person replying to someone else that has replied before them. And this reply is from a few days later, and they say, explain how a bloody sock with both boys' blood got thrown in the alley for then 75 yards away. Or is this where you say she ran 1.5 football fields with a slit throat to get rid of it, right? They convicted an innocent woman, and they are going to have to pay her dearly for the 22, now 23 years that she has served. So this person thinks she's completely innocent. Okay, this one up top says she invited the media. And then the next one said, here's the deal. And the reason the police pleaded the Fifth Amendment. See, that's not even something I was aware of. I did not know that they pleaded the Fifth in her trial. Did not know that. So see, that's something new to me too, right now. The police recorded that footage with, I'm assuming, what turned out to be an illegal wiretap. When they planted the recording device at the gravesite, they thought they would capture a confession in the form of an apology to the boys. And that's a good thought. It's quite possibly why they did it. But yes, they did kind of sneak around and put that video footage, because they found out they were going to have a birthday party at the grave. And they did. I mean, they planted that video footage without Darlie or her family even knowing they were being recorded, which is kind of terrible, really. I don't know how else to say it. That's terrible. But they did that. That was a private moment for the family that the media stole and used against them. Okay, this is one, and I believe they think she's guilty. I've done read through it. I want to read it to you guys. I'm not taking a lot of stock in this comment because there's some good questions in it. There really is. But I think these questions can be answered easily. And I don't ever think someone should make judgments. That was me in this situation. I don't do that because you don't know. Like, you really don't know unless you are in that situation. And now we can say all day, and we can firmly believe ourselves and put in our own minds, oh, if this were to happen to me, I would this or I would that. And that is what we think we would do and would if we had the opportunity. But you can't actually make a call on, if I was in that situation, on something like this, because you don't know. I can sit here and say all day, if that was me, I would do the same thing this person said that they would do. And I would. That would be the first thing I would say I would do. However, what if I was to go into shock? Because you know it can happen. Like it has happened to me. like when something drastically horrible happened to me, and I'm not even going to go into it, but I was frozen. Like I did. I wanted to, but I completely froze. Passed out, So it's hard to say if it was me on things like this because we just don't know. And hope to God we never do have to find out. And they say there is also the probability that the sock was planted by her before she made those wounds. Being a mother myself, if someone was attacking my child, you best bet they would need to come through me first. And if I was in that position, I would be the one dead and not my child. And that's what I was just talking about. And yes, any mother would do that. Really. I mean, they would cover their child like a shield and a guard. Absolutely. But at the same time, I am very leery to say in that position if that was me and all that kind of stuff in these kind of cases because you just don't know. And hope to God you never have to find out. But things happen, pass out, shock, fear. And when I say fear, I don't mean that you're scared and you would run. I don't mean that way. I just mean so fearful that you're just, frozen. I mean, I don't know. We just don't know, right? Obviously, our first initial would be to guard our child. Obviously, you know what I'm talking about. It makes no sense that they themselves were targeted. It's not like they lived in the ghetto. And who just sets out to kill kids in that scenario? Why did none of the neighbors get the license plate number from the strange car that was roaming the neighborhood, especially since it was coming from more than one account? And since the boys were stabbed, why was she just slashed? Lastly, she claims to have chased the intruder through the house to the garage. No physical evidence was found to substantiate that claim. And if that was the case, why didn't she just run outside screaming for help? And there you go again. See, you would think that is the first thing that you would do is just go outside and start screaming to the top of your lungs, I need help, I need help. But at the same time, her husband was upstairs, right? So you just can't make those calls, really, in my opinion, unless you're in the situation. Because every millisecond counts. I wouldn't ever want to be in her situation to have to make those sort of decisions and then look back on them in hindsight and be like, coulda, shoulda, woulda. We all do it. We've all had things we look back in hindsight and have the whole coulda, shoulda, woulda questions, So it's hard to say unless you're actually in the situation, in my opinion. And when they say here no physical evidence was found, well, this whole case was decided on all circumstantial evidence. So even though it says a lot and it has a lot of good questions, it doesn't really say much either at the same time. Okay, this commenter has made some very, very good points, and I haven't even read it all. I only read like 2 or 3 sentences, and I was like, yeah, there's some really good points in this one. So I'm just going to read it out to you guys without even reading it all, because I can tell from the very get-go there's some good ones in this comment. And it reads, 1, the sock was not planted, it was dropped. Even if you don't want to believe that, consider this. To have blood from both Devin and Damon on the sock, it had to have been quote-unquote planted after they were both cut and bleeding, and that is true. Per the medical examiner, Damon could only have lived 9 minutes at the very most after being stabbed. 5 minutes and 44 seconds of that 9 minutes, Darlie was on the phone to 911. Damon did not pass away until right after the paramedics started working on him, and they had to wait outside an additional 2 minutes while police cleared the crime scene. That means that Darlie had about a minute and a half at the most to run 75 yards down the alley to plant the sock, run 75 yards back, quickly slice her own throat in an awkward position, might I add, with her being right-handed, while miraculously missing her artery by 2 millimeters. Attempt to clean up blood from the kitchen area, move the vacuum cleaner into the kitchen area, break a wine glass. I won't claim it's possible, but I'm sorry, it just doesn't wash. 2. This makes sense, but only if there was just one attacker, which there wasn't. There were 2. The first guy panicked when he realized there were people home, and they thought the family would be in Pennsylvania, but the guy showed up a week early. One of the kids, most likely Devin, woke up and saw one of their faces. The dude panicked and stabbed him with the hunting knife he brought with him. The other dude never even realized there was another child in the room. He went for the kitchen butcher knife and started fighting with Darlie, and she gave him a run for his money. They both ended up on the floor by the couch, and the guy just stabbed blindly in the dark. He thought he was stabbing her. He never saw the younger boy on the floor. 3. They were not targeted, and this wasn't a random crime. It was never supposed to be a murder. No one was supposed to be home, let alone get hurt. This was set up well in advance. Somebody effed up, and it all went sour. 4. I'll give you that one. All these people were concerned enough to take note of this suspicious-looking car that did not belong in the neighborhood, but no one was able to get a tag number, even a partial. Very strange. 5. I thought he did stab her, and I did too, her arms. The slash across the throat was done as a half-hearted coup de grace. He was pretty sure she was already dead, and he was in a hurry to get out of there, so he gave her one final slice of the neck for good measure and hauled ass. And for the record, he didn't actually go out the utility room through the garage. When Darlie turned her back to the kitchen to tell Damon to stay back, the guy doubled back and darted down the hallway and right out the main entrance. 6. Based on the amount of blood visible in the crime scene photos, it's tempting to believe that an intruder or intruders could not have exited the house without leaving some kind of bloody footprints on the other trail. What most does not take into account, however, is that when the intruders actually left the scene, that blood was not present yet. It was not shed until after Darlie stood up and started moving around. That is her blood we see, not the children's, not the cause of death for either boy. Their bleeding was mostly internal, and the blood was confined to the areas in which they were attacked. Even the prosecution's expert witness conceded that an intruder would not necessarily have had blood on him or tracked through the house. Why would she run outside and scream for help when there's a phone right there? If I thought I'd just chase my attacker outside, I'm not following him unless I have a .38 in my hands. So this commenter made some very, very good points, in my opinion. Very good points, and accurately replied to the other comment in a very, very good way. And there again, this one, I totally agree with you. What intruder would come in, stab 2 little boys to death, and not kill the mother? And to not hear this all happening while she was right there. No doubt of her guilt, and hope she never gets out. So see, there again, we're having a 50-50 case. And this one says, exactly, I sincerely hope all of her appeals have been exhausted and she will meet her fate soon. It will be more merciful than what she did to those innocent kids. And then this one, I believe, is for her innocence. The money is exactly why they would never admit they were just like with Stephen Avery. Some people put too much stock in the state's theory and don't comprehend that the state is a wide variety of normal people who have issues themselves and are not always correct. Tunnel vision, power, and poor investigating equals innocent people getting convicted of crimes. Routier's wounds are plenty of proof that she was the third victim. Among more evidence, such as the sock, poor lady has lived a nightmare and deserves justice. And in the comment we read earlier, the one I said that was so detailed, well, this Sandra brings good question into this comment. She said, why is it this person knows all of the details that we did not hear? Is it a confession? Why did no one notice this? I find it very bone-chilling the way he or she was commenting and explaining, quote, how it happened, unquote. And I kind of felt whoever was putting that comment out there knows a lot about the case as well. And this one holds a lot of stock as well. It says, I always found it very strange that Darren wasn't looked at more closely, and so do I, especially after he failed his polygraph test. You would think that would put them looking at him a little deeper. He admitted to hiring burglars to scam the insurance company, and Darlie had defensive wounds as well as a slash to her throat. I don't think she deserves to be on death row. I believe her story, and I've seen the photos of her defensive wounds, both arms bruised on the underside. The jury sure got it wrong. Go Texas. This comment is almost the polar opposite of the one above that was explaining every detail of the case that we just talked about. But it is a very interesting, and there's quite a few things in it that are important in my opinion, so let's look at it. And this comment is actually from this year. So it says, I know this is an older post, but I am just now hearing about this case. And that is like a lot of us, right? I had watched a series on TV and they cherry-picked through the story. It's no way in hell that someone came into that home and just started stabbing innocent children and take the mother over to the sink and cut her throat. The evidence points to her guilt. The sock was planted by her. In fact, it's my opinion that she may have been trying to get her husband framed instead. It was his sock after all, but her DNA was found inside of it. Well, I'm not going to put a lot of stock in her DNA being found inside the sock. And the reason of that is she does laundry, right? And she could have took it out of the dryer. I mean, and put it away. So I'm not going to take a whole lot of stock that her DNA was inside that sock. I'm just throwing that out there. The evidence points to her guilt. The sock was planted by her. In fact, it's my opinion. She was asked directly if she killed her children, and she replied 5 out of 6 times that if she had, she didn't remember it. That if she had, she didn't remember it. The cleanup in the kitchen of blood wouldn't have been done by anyone but her. What? The killers are going to stop to wipe the kitchen counter and kitchen floor up? Plus, their security light stayed on for 18 minutes. Why wasn't it on when the first officer showed up 3 minutes after the 911 call? And this is all things in the timeline that we haven't went into yet, so pretty interesting. The same call where she kept repeating that she had picked up the murder weapon and hoped they could still get his prints. What the freak? Well, that I've already talked about. The 911 operator asked her not to touch anything, and that's why she told him she picked it up. So it all points to her and to her husband. I think her husband knows she'd done this, but he cannot admit it. Those people have a very delusional sense of their image. They both want people to see them as victims. They both act like especially when they had some money. I think between her having depression and financial issues, it made her snap and do this. Well, I've had depression and financial issues too, and I have never thought about doing anything even remotely close to this. She's no victim, and neither is he. She's where she's at for those reasons, and hopefully soon all of her appeals will be ran out and her execution date will be laid down on her. She has also taken a polygraph for 6 hours and failed it. See, I did not know that. I knew that Darren failed his, but I wasn't aware that she failed one as well. So see, there again, sometimes the comments will tell you a lot, especially if you haven't dug into it as deep as we're going to. Little tidbits like this helps us along the way. Her mother denied it on TV, but the reporter already knew that Darlie had taken and failed the test. That polygraph was for her defense, but had refused to take one for the police. Immediately after the murder she committed, her, along with her supporters, cannot and will not ever be able to explain the evidence away. So what she was injured, she done to herself. So, what a sock was found up the road from their home. She planted it there. It'll be a good day, the day she dies for this. Well, this person absolutely 100% believes in her guilt. And then it says it wasn't actually that far from her home. It was 2 houses down from hers. They did measure the distance, and it was 75 yards. Darlie's skin cell in the toe of that sock. Darlie murdered her kids, and the evidence points to her only. See, I can't agree with that. I do laundry, and a lot of times socks are turned inside out when I take them out of the dryer, and I have to turn them right side outward, to mate them, to put them up. So I just can't go with that. Personally, I just can't go with, because her DNA was inside the toe of the sock. I just can't do it. That's me. I can see how her DNA could get inside that sock so many ways with her being a housewife. And this one says, that's only in the book. The DNA in the sock, the book said it was Darlie's sock, but it's Darren's. Darren did it, and I hope they prove it. He was trained in CPR and never tried to help Damon, because he would have tried to scream. And because he wanted everyone dead. He said Damon was moving, aka gasping, and he never provides that air supply to him, only to Damon, who he already knew was dead. He also gives a chilling response to the fact Damon had moved during the struggle. Absolutely, I agree this woman was railroaded because of her actions at a birthday party at her children's burial site. Wow. I've seen lots of videos of self-inflicted wounds people have done to get away with a crime, and they are never that deep. They are always superficial, unlike Darlie, who had one that was down to the bone, as well as the other wounds that were also very serious. Let her out and investigate this outrageous injustice. This one says, anyone who has ever studied forensic science and criminal justice and law can see the story that the evidence tells, just like the above comment had said. Their wounds show that there had to have been 2 different knives used. The prosecutors did a character assassination tactic. I wouldn't doubt if the people that did this either know the victims. Check the DNA found under her nails and the fingerprint found. This is a witch hunt and a terrified neighbor where this kind of thing never happens this close, it quickly, and make it fit regardless. It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but really it's more like you're guilty until proven otherwise. Yeah, I actually put that on one of the jackets we designed in the merch store. But this needs to change, and so does media prosecution. Amen. And this one is actually the Innocence Project did help to free Stephen Avery for the rape that he did not commit. I'm sure others have corrected this already, but the point is that they can get testing done that can prove innocence, and they will. And they don't just take everyone who claims they're innocent. You should probably assume that after being screened, the ones who are lucky enough to make it through have a low likelihood of being guilty. Same goes with Stephen's current attorney, the best in the world. She doesn't go around taking cases she isn't completely sure she will eventually win. It took many years of requesting her help before she finally looked at the case and decided to take it. If you're going to invest a couple of $1 million on experts, testing, and your time, you bet she's positive of his innocence and that she can prove it. She's got to get her money back in the civil suit, and that is surely to follow. Darlie is innocent, and that's going to be proven eventually. And this one says how. She planted it, probably had the sock with the boy's blood on it days earlier. No, they would have been able to tell if that blood was old. Yeah, just from the picture that I seen in the evidence, that wasn't old blood. Old blood's going to turn like a dark black almost look, and the blood in those pictures on that sock was still very red. So, no. She could have cut and pricked their finger for the blood days earlier. Everything in the crime scene was clearly set up to look like a break-in. Too bad Routier is a complete fool and didn't know how good forensic science can be. Well, I don't think your point there is that spot on either, Scott. I agree. She was so used to people going along with everything she said and done. I'm so tired of hearing that. One of the prosecutors actually called her that. And that is degrading. You don't do that. And I can't even stand to read that. It's no way in hell she will get out unless it's in a heavy-duty card box. She swears she is because the forensic points directly to her. The idiot thought she could not only outsmart her husband and family, but thought she could outsmart the police as well. It goes along with her type of personality and how she thinks she should be seen and thought of. She's a psychopathic person who killed her own children for attention. She wasn't thinking of anyone but herself and what she wanted, and the murders of her own children. Those who want to believe in her innocence are not aware of the forensics involved in this case, or they're just blindly stupid and will believe anything. Well, I don't believe anything. I am very, very much the unbiased. And you're correct. I'm not aware of all the forensics in the case, but I will be very soon, and I will make my decision then. But I'm aware of a lot already, and I still lean towards she's innocent. Lean. Not completely there, but I'm leaning there. Yeah, what forensics evidence? And that's what I want to know, because I have not seen it yet at all. All I've seen and heard is a bunch of circumstantial this and that. It's all trash. Why they are retesting all the forensic evidence? Why hasn't the great state of Texas executed her yet? Nobody knows this lady yet. You're all willing to convict based on forensic files? Get it right. Yeah, there was a forensic file show, and it pretty much did point to her guilt. Thoroughly. I mean, it just pointed straight to she's guilty. And that is the problem with a lot of these episodes, and it does give you a lot of information into them. At the same time, I feel much of it is biased, and it will give both sides, but one side will have little weight where the other side has tons of weight. You see what I mean? So I feel like these kind of episodes are on a biased opinion. And I think the reason that is, like Forensic Files, for example, they don't want to make it look the system got it wrong, right? They want to make it appear that the system knows what they're doing. They will get the right person, and they're not wrong. That is what most of these shows and episodes do. I mean, think about it. Forensic Files. They show you how cops, judges, and investigators and all this solve cases. So obviously they're not going to put something on there that's going to show that investigators screwed up a case. Tell me one episode of Forensic Files, and there may be one, I'm not saying there's not, where they show that the system messed up. And we all know they do a lot. I agree completely. The prosecuting attorney made a mess of the whole thing. It's very obvious that her ex-husband hired someone to do a robbery. I think there was more to it than that, though. Like he owed someone money or something. Because the extent of the crime, stabbing and slicing Darlie's neck. And this one says, has no one explored this before? There was only one person beside the suspect. If there was one, that left that house that night to get help from a neighbor, Darlie Routier, hence the bloody sock. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to see that. And Darlie did leave the house. He did. So, do you think maybe Darlie threw it there? This person does. Also, they say that the scene looked cleaned up. Who's not to say Darlie tried to do the cleanup? And that's true. He lived there too. Maybe he did. Nobody ever looked into those possibilities of him. I don't understand. I know that Darlie is innocent, and Texas obviously must have their doubts, or they would have killed her a long time ago. This one says, I agree that Darlie did the cleanup and planted the sock regardless who he thought did it. Darlie, co-scammers, or an unknown intruder. Guilty conscience on that man, trying to point the evidence away from himself, and Darlie got caught up in it. I do hope the Innocence Project can help Darlie. I also think Darlie may have cut the screen. Okay, there's many other comments to this, but I'm just going to do these last two here because, I don't want to get the video too awful long. If y'all like me reading the comments of the articles, let me know. And if you would rather me not, let me know that too. But I'm a firm believer that a lot of times you will find a lot of stuff, and that's why. And if you don't want me reading them and you don't want to hear about them and all, that's fine. I won't read them out loud in the videos anymore. I don't always do it anyway. I think I've done it once or twice before. But, if you don't want to hear it, that's fine. Just let me know. And I won't do it anymore. But I'm still going to read them myself because I found a lot of my most important things. And I'll write them down in my notebook. And then I'll go have a look and make sure they're accurate. Because some comments are just way out there, But if they do prove to be accurate, then yeah, I'll put them in another part of my notebook where, yeah, got proof on this. This is actual fact, But if you like to hear them, let me know, and I'll keep doing them when we do articles like this. But these last two, it says, wow, the ignorance is overwhelming. You better hope that you are never on the other side of a bad conviction like Routier and Avery, and I agree with that person 100%, because not being willing to look and take into consideration there could be another side to this, then I think you're just blinded, and I don't really think true crime's for you. I'm just being honest. If you have looked at both sides and you truly still feel that your opinion is the way it is, then yeah, okay. We've all got different opinions, but if you're only going to look in one direction, I hope to hell that people like that is never on a jury of a very, very important case. I've never been to jury duty, I have to be honest. I was scheduled to be twice before in the past, and something had came up, I can't remember. There was issues that I couldn't do it. However, if I ever am, I will be that juror that definitely dig And I will be the one that is over there like, wait a minute. I'll be the one holding everything up. I'm telling you now, because I will not make a decision until I feel 100% in my heart that I'm making the right decision. I just won't. And I feel like here we're a mock jury, and that's why I feel the same way about what we do here. Unbiased, every angle, every side. Just because you like somebody or don't like them doesn't mean they're a murderer. Stephen Avery may be innocent of the first charge, but he definitely killed Teresa Halbach. See? There's one that thinks he's guilty. He is a sadistic killer and continued to threaten women. I hope he stays in jail, at least until he is old and gray. See, there's one that thinks Stephen Avery is guilty, and I'm sure this person has her reasons for believing he's guilty. That's another case I want to get deeper into. As of right now, I say totally innocent, completely framed. However, I've never read the documents. I've never read the transcripts. I only know Netflix version, random versions here and there of videos. I don't know the deep detail, but we will, because we're going to touch on that case too. Okay, everyone. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you learned something. I did. I really did. I actually learned several things during our little study in this one. So I hope you did as well. Let me know if you want me to do the Patreon thing, as well as continue to read comments and little articles we find. And if not, just, that's fine too. I'm here for you guys. I really am. I can sit here all night and read all this to myself, make my own decisions, but I like it as we're a team. It's nice. We're a mock jury, and I think we work damn good together. I really do. Wish we all had a big firm of private investigators, because I think we'd be the best. You guys have a great day, night, evening, wherever you may be. This is UnJustified.